When we're young, we have an amazing, positive outlook about how great life is going to be, but somewhere along the line, we forget to dream and end up settling. Join Up Dots features amazing people who refuse to give up and chose to go after their dreams. This is your blueprint for greatness. So here's your host, live from the back of his garden in the UK, David Ralph.
Yes, hello there, good morning everybody who listens to Join Up Dots. Thank you for being here. Thank you so much. If you was here with me now, I'd sit you on my knee, I'd give you a lovely little squeezy hug, because I do appreciate you being around. And today's guest, I'm going to get straight into it. Normally I do a little sort of preamble, but I feel this is one that could go on for about 3 or 4 hours. So I'm going to get straight to it, because he is a kind of man who seems kind of normal from the outside, but dig deeper and you can see a world-changing mission. One side of the fence is a coach, and a very successful one at that. He's helped clients create multi-million pound investments from nothing. He's coached CEOs to build thriving companies, philanthropists to set up charities, couples to conceive, I don't know how he did that, and lovers to start fantastic relationships. He's helped the intrepid to change jobs, change careers, and even change countries. And he has helped entrepreneurs to find their dream companies and senior executives to earn promotion to the board. He is dedicated to serving extraordinary people in recreating their lives beyond recognition, which is, of course, powerful stuff for sure. But then you see the standout journey that he's on, at least it is for us at Join Up Dots. In 2015, he created the Chicken Shit Foundation, which was created to honour and fulfil the legacy of Rafael Bejarano Rangel. I do apologise, Rafael, if I screwed your name up, who was tragically killed in Egypt, to bring empowerment, education and transformation to all people through music, laughter and compassion, and to help re-awaken waning or lost indigenous traditions and support their sustainability and survival through the youth of the world. Now, they accomplished their mission by enrolling the support and voices of chicken shits, i.e. those who need to believe in themselves more, even if it's just at certain times with certain people, and who would benefit from taking stock of the gifts and talents they possess that the world is hungry for, and then sharing them accordingly. Now, their current projects include building schools in Liberia, West Africa, and for a community in Mexico, as well as youth empowerment and preservation of indigenous traditions among youth around the world. They do this by fundraising, mentoring, providing leadership and raising awareness, and through building a global community. So this is big stuff. This is big stuff going on in this man's life. So it's a delight to have him on the show. But what made this Englishman do something very un-English and peer his head over his own garden fence and start to make a difference to others across the world? And does he look back and think, God, I wish I'd started this earlier? Or did it appear at the perfect time for him to be able to achieve his aims? Well, let's find out as we bring onto the show to start joining up dots with the one and only Mr Simon Crowe. Good morning, Simon. How are you, mate?
Good morning, David. I'm great, thank you. It's really good to be here.
It is lovely to have you here because you are a sexy looking man. You've got a full head of hair. You've still got the kind of Bon Jovi stuff. It hasn't left you, mate, has it? You're still clinging to your youth.
In some senses, although I have had a haircut since that photograph was taken. A short back and sides.
Oh, Simon, no, you've got to keep it going. There's so many baldies out there that look at you with kind of envy. Envy, that's what they want the mane. Are you ever going to grow it back?
Probably, yeah. I've had long hair since I was in my late teens, and it just keeps coming back. So, yeah, probably. Good.
That's what we want. We want hairy men across the world. That's a
I've got the ABBA look going. I've got a little beard as well right now, so I'm looking like one of the ABBA guys.
All the girls, I'm sure their grooming was good at any time. So your life is, as I say, very un-English. I speak to so many people and we like our environments. We like our back gardens, we like our front gardens, we like our sheds. Not very often do people really look over the fence and see sort of a world apart from their local community. Or do they? Is that the sort of people that I'm talking to, or is there a big movement of people doing amazing things across the world nowadays?
I can't speak for everybody, but most of the people that I meet who are up for big adventures, it doesn't really matter where they've come from. It's not really about their personality or who they are as people. It's much more about how they want to create their lives. So I don't know where they come from, but there's definitely something in them which sets them apart. The desire to do something creative, the desire to be, brave and take courage in their hands, and just do have an impact in the world. So I don't know where they come from, but I certainly know that you can recognize them when you talk to them.
And how can you see them? Can you be in a bar and you think, oh, there's somebody for my next travel? You know, like in Indiana Jones 2, when he found the little Chinese kid Short Round, and he builds up that community. Are you like Indiana Jones and you pick the right people for the mission?
Well, if I say to somebody, I'm going to West Africa, I'm going to Liberia, most people think about Ebola, civil war, civil unrest. And I said, I'm going there to build a school. Would you like to come? And a lot of people would go, no, I don't want to come. And in fact, that's often the reaction. But occasionally you get someone who says, wow, that sounds really interesting. I'd love to know more about that. So I don't know if you can spot them, but you can certainly filter them quite quickly by talking about going to Liberia.
I think most people, you know, when you say that to me, I think to myself, first of all, that sounds amazing, I would do it. And then the next thought comes into my head is, oh, well, what about my work? What about this? What about that? How do these people structure this, where obviously they've got lives and lives kind of engulf us? How do they free themselves up from like work responsibilities and stuff to be able to take their talents into a different world?
So to me, it's all about making a decision. If you decide to do something, then you make it happen. Most people get caught up on the how. How am I going to do this? How am I going to get the time off work? How am I going to, get the money to do this? How can I get the time to do this? Whereas really, to me, what's important is just deciding that you're going to do it and then making the decisions that enable you to do it. If you try and do it the other way around, it never happens. But really, it's about that commitment, that desire, and then the other things fall into place.
Do they need that sort of commitment and desire? You know, is that a sort of natural thing, or have we all got that swilling around in us, and sometimes it's stagnant and sometimes it's a bit stirred up? Do we all have that sort of commitment and desire, or is that just how life is? People generally can't see more than what's happening on a day-to-day basis.
I don't know. Again, to me, there are kind of two broad types of people. Those people who feel that they live their lives from the outside in. So we look at the world and we respond to it. And then there's people who live their lives from the inside out. So they make choices about how they want to live their life. They make choices about the experiences they want to have. They make choices about how they're going to create those experiences. And so I think we all have that innate desire to do something exciting. I think we all have that within us. But some people see the fear first and other people see the opportunity first. And really, it's only the people who see the opportunity, those people who want to create the experiences they want to create for themselves, that really can sign up to something like this. I met up with somebody yesterday who I was talking about going to Singapore just because we were talking about, we had a mutual friend who had been out there. Yeah. Oh, I'd never go. I'd never go to Singapore, she said. And that's just her. She just wouldn't get on a plane to Singapore. I've been there 3 times. It's an amazing place.
It's sweaty though, isn't it, Simon? I've been to Singapore. I've never sweated as much as in walking up and down Orchard Road, I think it was, looking for a cheap MP3 player. It was dripping from me.
So if for you the acid test is how much you're going to sweat, then you're probably not someone who's going to sign up to come to Liberia, which is right now in the rainy season. It's incredibly hot, about 30 plus degrees, and it rains every day, and it's really humid. So if you're making your choices based on the sweat factor, then you're probably not going to come on one of these experiences.
Yeah, but there's a life, you can go some places and you can be quite comfortable. You can really embrace a lifestyle. I remember going to, where did I go? Australia. Very, very dry heat. And they were saying, oh, it's 42 degrees today. And I was thinking, is it? This is quite pleasant. Yes, my skin's peeling off, but everything's good. But I just remember just walking along, literally with sweat pouring out of every crack. And I'd only just stepped out of a shower. And I thought, I don't know if I can put up with this all day. It just zapped me. How do you keep going? How do you keep going when it's so zapping?
I guess I think about the reason I'm there. It probably sounds a bit funny, but I'm there for a purpose. I'm there to create something, and I'm in a country which is hot and it's sweaty and it's raining, and the people don't really have anything in the terms of infrastructure or resources. But I'm there to create something. So so how do I create what it is I want to create in this environment, rather than wishing it was dry in Australia? I'm in Liberia, so accept that I'm in Liberia. Be there and do the things that need to be done.
Have you always had this outlook? Because before we started pressing recording, I was talking about how many coaches come to the show and they were corporate and then they quit and then they struggled and then they became coaches teaching people how to make businesses. But you said that you've never been in corporate land. So what was your dream when you was a small kid? Were you very adventurous? Does this play really to your key strengths?
I guess when I was a kid, I used to want to be a sailor. So I used to go to school dressed in a little sailor suit. I used to wear blue and white a lot of the time.
You look like Donald Duck.
Yeah, but really, what it was about my curiosity. I've always been really curious. I love to go into places where I don't know really what's going to happen. I love to ask questions. I like to discover and explore. I haven't done this all my life. Absolutely not. I mean, for many years I wasn't in the corporate world. I used to work in adult education and university education, which was fine. It was absolutely fine. But I found that people's outlook quite often was very kind of insular. And what I like to do is be around people who have the courage to, I talk about create the impossible. And what I mean by that is if you can have an impossible dream, something that you don't know how to create, that's who I coach. So if you think about, well, I want to run a business and I want to create some more money. Well, you already know how to create money. So creating more money isn't really a goal. It's just repeating what you already know how to do. But if you say to me, Simon, what I want to do, and this is my personal example, I want to build a school in West Africa. Well, I've got no idea how to do that. You've got no idea how to do that. Let's do it. Let's create. It's like the Wright brothers. How did they decide that they were going to fly? They just decided that was what they were going to do. No one had ever done that before. Putting a man on the moon. It's the impossible, which I really love, because I believe that if you set your intention clearly, and then you're prepared to commit, you're prepared to take the courage in your hands, you're prepared to take risk, you're prepared to grow, you're prepared to fail, then you can create the impossible. And they're the people that I really love to work with.
This is fascinating because talking about myself, why not? I've got a microphone in front of me and it's my show. But when I started Join Up Dots, when I really started it right at the beginning, when it was just a dream in my head, I knew it was going to be the number one show across all shows in the globe. And as I proceeded into it, I suddenly thought, hang on, this is a lot harder than I thought. I don't know if I'm ever going to get this. But every morning I wake up thinking, right, here we go again. Another day, compound effect, keep on going. And little by little, things are falling into place and it's moving up and there's more profile and stuff. But it never seemed to me to be impossible because I looked around and I knew that other people had done it. Mm-hmm. So it was always doable. Whether I could do it or whether I had the skills, the talents, whatever. What I'm always fascinated about is these people that do stuff that no one's ever done before. The real lunacy. I was watching a program the other day and they're an Indian bloke and he basically grew up in a village. He had no chance of education and he got himself through to university and now he's going to be the first trillionaire by mining precious metals off the moon. And you think to yourself, I don't even understand that. How do you get it back from there? How do you get up? That is lunacy to me. Are you close enough to that? When you say the impossible, is your impossible gripped with it's been done before in a different sort of environment? Would you be able to tackle something that's never been done, that you just couldn't even comprehend? Would that be too big for you?
Really great question. No, it wouldn't be too big for me because my belief is that we can create anything. Really, I do believe that you can create anything. If you set the intention, get really clear on the vision so that all of your focus and attention goes on to creating that one thing. Again, I said earlier, it's not about the how do I do this? And that's where most people fall down because they don't know how to do something. To me, it's about choosing to do something and then trusting that all of the resources, all of the elements, the connections are all going to fall into place. And that's my experience. I've just come back from West Africa. I went there with an architect who I'd never met before. We just connected through the internet. She was very inspired by my vision to build this school. And she got on a plane, flew for 36 hours to get to Liberia. She'd never been to Africa before. She designs multi-million-pound houses in Miami. And she arrived in Liberia, and the first morning she looked at me. I mean, it probably felt easier for her in that moment to mine minerals off the moon. It was like, how on earth have I found myself here? What on earth are we going to do? And we just started. I mean, I don't know how to describe how we went about it, but we needed to meet a local architect. There are no architects in Liberia because there's no university education. So any architect has been educated externally. Within half a day, we were sitting in an architect's office because we'd met a guy under an umbrella on the corner of a street who was selling scratch cards for mobile phones, and he'd heard of a guy and he knew somebody opposite. Anyway, long story short, within half an hour, we were sitting in his office, and I got him to agree to be to do the project management and being the engineer for our school building project. Without him, we couldn't have built the project. But I couldn't have known him before I went there. I couldn't have known him without setting the intention of finding someone like that. It's like finding a needle in a haystack, and we found him. So that is the answer to the question. That nothing is impossible if you decide that you're going to create it.
Well, I'm going to play some words and then we're going to delve a little bit back into this because this fascinates me. But here's Oprah.
The way through the challenge is to get still and ask yourself, what is the next right move? Not think about, I got all of this stuff. What is the next right move? And then from that space, make the next right move and the next right move. And not to be overwhelmed by it because you know your life is bigger than that one moment. You know you're not defined by what somebody says is a failure for you, because failure is just there to point you in a different direction.
Now, those are powerful words, especially linking them to what we've been talking about so far.
Absolutely. I mean, what I think is if you create a powerful enough vision and then really connect with that vision. So I'll just give you a little example. With the school that I'm building, what I've already done is I've written letters from the students who are going to attend that school to me, describing what it's like going to that school. I've written letters from the teachers who teach in that school, from the head teacher, from the parents of the people in the village. So I'm not just talking about sitting down and dreaming about something which would be nice to happen, really connecting with that as if it were true today. And then everything that I do is now kind of, if you like, imbibed with that energy. It's like a fractal of the hologram. You understand? So you create that vision. It's like a hologram. And then every fractal of that hologram contains the full power of that vision. And that's what Oprah's saying about taking the next right move. You don't have to know every step before you start. It's what's the right move right now. And when you've done that, it's okay, so what's the next right move? And again, most people get very, very overwhelmed by the magnitude of dreaming big. Well, if you break it down into tiny steps, then and each of those steps feels manageable, it feels easy, it feels achievable. There may be some stretch, there may be some risk, but it's not something that you can't do. Then that's how we create the impossible.
And do you need a team around you, Simon? Because one of the things that I'm very a one-man band. And I know that at certain points in my journey, it would have been very useful to sit with maybe 4 or 5 people who are doing the same thing and say to them, what's your angle? Can you see a different way of doing it? Because we all only see the way that we can see. Does it make it easier by surrounding yourself with a team, or is it easier just to plough into it and make it up as you go along?
I think asking for help is a really important part here. So I have a team. So I work on my own. My business is called Simon Crowe Limited. So it's very much me. I'm the person who coaches my clients, etc. But behind me, I have an assistant. I have my own coach. I belong to 2 men's groups. I belong to a coaching community based out in California. I've got people who are helping me with the logistics about building the school. I've got a project manager out there. The list goes on and on and on. And to me, I know what I'm really good at. What I'm really fantastic at is creating a powerful vision and leading people and if you like, drawing them into that vision. I'm also a really fantastic coach. And what I mean by that is I'm really great at helping people to create a mindset which enables them to design and create the life that they really want to live. They're my skill sets. I'm not very good at administration. I am not very good at detail. So I delegate that. It means I can give more of my focus and attention and bring more of my gifts if you like, to the party, because I'm not focusing on the things that I don't know how to do. And so, absolutely, that's what Oprah's talking about the right next steps. It's who could I ring? I wrote a letter to Ed Sheeran just recently because he'd been out in Liberia. I thought, wouldn't it be great if Ed came on this program with me? It would be really fantastic because of his profile, and he could help me raise some funds for it. I asked him for help. I got a very polite no. But okay, so that may be seen as a kind of small failure. But that's what I mean. Just who's out there? Who can I connect with? Who can I draw into this vision so we can create it bigger than even I can dream, and obviously do it more quickly and more effectively than I could do it on my own.
Now, what you were saying about delegation is absolutely right. We all have our strengths. What we do is brilliant, and other things we're just rubbish at. But at the very beginning, when you're creating your coaching business, you may not be getting any money in, and all the money is going on growing it. Did you sort of just muddle along for a period of time, or did you have the foresight to start delegating?
No, I muddled. I absolutely muddled. I'd never run a business before. I had some idea about what needed to happen. But you're right. You're in that space of fear. You've not got very much money coming in, so you don't want to spend it. However, the first thing that I did do right back, it was about 12 years ago now, is I got a coach. I thought to myself, well, if I'm going to be coaching, in order to be kind of in integrity and authentic, then I need to be working with a coach of my own. But what it was fantastic at doing is just helping me to make the right decisions for myself, to get clear on what the next right action was, and often helping me through my own kind of limiting beliefs, that the thinking habits that I have that would stop me doing something, having someone alongside. So that wasn't a huge investment. But it was a really worthwhile one. But yeah, I muddled. I looked at lots of different ways that I could piggyback on what other people were doing. So I did a lot of associate coaching, and that means that other people would be doing the selling of the coaching. And then once they'd found a client, they would, if you like, they would kind of, a subcontract is one way of thinking about it, but to me, and I would deliver the coaching and they would take a percentage of whatever I earned. That was fine. But what I wanted to have more control. I wanted to be the person who was connecting directly with my clients. But I recognized there are stepping stones, but I took what felt easy and achievable. And those are the steps that I took right at the beginning.
And when did you have that moment when you're laying in the bath, or it crashes into you that you suddenly think, hang on, it was kind of right, but it wasn't totally right. I can now see it. It seems so obvious. It should have been there all the time, but I just couldn't see it. I think we all had that when it suddenly comes together for us and we realise that actually our gifts aren't being utilised, our strengths aren't being utilised. We're kind of going the hard path and not going the easy one. Do you remember that?
I do. I was in a job which I was really successful at it, and I'd created a team of 12 people from a team of one, and it was really going well. I was getting really good results. The team were very motivated, and they were well managed in the sense that they were beginning to manage themselves. And I felt horrible because I really didn't see what value I was bringing to this role any longer. And my moments of lying in the bath are those moments of lying there thinking, God, this must be more to life than this. And not really knowing how to move forward, knowing that I had something more to give, knowing that I've always had the potential within me to create incredible things, but not really knowing how to create the opportunity to do that. And I remember that moment thinking, enough of this. And I remember handing in my notice. I remember deciding that's what I was going to do. I was going to leave that role. And whatever happened, it was better than doing what I was doing, dying slowly in this role that I didn't enjoy. And I knew that I could bring my gifts to bear in another context. And the only way I was perhaps going to find that was to step out of what wasn't working with the belief that I would be able to create something that would work.
And that's all you need, isn't it? As you said right at the very beginning, you need that belief and you need that willingness to step away, just to sort of assess. I've said this a lot of times in Join Up Dots, but my life is absolutely brilliant. I love every second of it. And then every now and again, my parents have got a business. And if they are short of staff, because I've known this business all my life, I say, I'll go in and cover. I'll make it easy for you. And literally, I get in there at 7:55. By 8:10, I'm looking at the clock By 8, I'm thinking, much more can I take of this? It's just dreadful. But I spent a lot of my life like that, going to work, getting there by a certain time, getting through to lunchtime, having an hour, and just sort of like little periods of time. With your life now, is it speeding up? Do you look at months and years whizzing past because it's just kind of vibrant creativity? Or do you still have those moments when you think, God, 8? I base my life on Radio 2 DJs when I'm down in his shop and I think, oh, he's finished, the next one's on now, and I sort of just work through the day like that.
I remember those days. I remember when I was a young man working in a factory and using a bathroom break, the opportunity to go and relieve myself. I had time when I was going to do it because it would mean I could break up, the chunk between lunchtime and the tea break in the afternoon. We became, and absolutely, like, my whole life being timed by the DJs on Radio 1. And when it got to Steve right in the afternoon, you knew you'd almost made it through the day. I don't have those moments any longer. There's never seems to be enough time in the day, and that's. And it's not because of the stress. It's just that there's so much that I want to do, so many people that I want to connect to, so many conversations. I have conversations with people all the time, just looking for what it is that looking for that spark in them, looking for what would be impossible for them, but would really make their eyes shine, make them come alive. I do that all the time, and I work with some of them. That's how I really find my clients. Is I just talk to people. I find ways of helping them to change their perspective and change their lives. And then some of those people want to come on the journey with me because I charge quite a lot of money to do the work that I do. We work together for normally a year or more, and we go on a really exciting journey. I don't coach very many people at the moment. I have normally between 5 and 6 people a year. So I'm very selective about the people I work with, and the projects that we work together on are things that really inspire me.
Now, this is interesting because you are allowing your life to have freedom in it. You're allowing time. You're structuring that people are paying you a lot of money, but you're not taking that too many people on. That is a journey you've got to go through as well, isn't it? At the beginning, you kind of almost base all your prices on what you think you could afford. When did that sort of change to you? Because I think that is one of the pivotal points where success really comes together, when you realise it's not you deciding how much somebody could pay, it's up to them.
Yeah, it's a really good distinction, isn't it? When did I decide? I guess I decided about 3 years ago, because I was working as a coach in the way that most people work is looking to fill a practice. So if I've got 30 hours in a week which I can coach, then I need 30 clients, all of the, paying me whatever it would be an hour, and that way I can make a living. And it's incredibly stressful. So you're sitting in front of somebody saying to them, I'm a life coach, I'm sort of stressed out. My life is really difficult right now because I'm constantly trying to find new clients. It doesn't work for me, but let me help you with your life. And it doesn't feel very authentic. So what I love to do is I coach 3 days a week, which means Monday is a day where I do my admin. Friday is always about something creative within my business. And that's how I've structured I don't coach in the evenings any longer. I certainly don't coach at the weekends. And that came about because I made a decision. I made a decision that I wanted to create my business differently. And it seemed like lunacy. How can I possibly earn more by doing less? But that was if you like, the impossible that I wanted to create. I wanted to create a situation in which I was earning more by doing less, so that the hours that I was coaching were really, life-changing, really making a massive impact on people's lives. So I give myself the time around my coaching to study, to read, to attend courses. Coaching for me is not just a business; it's a way of life. I'm constantly working on myself. I have a coach who I paid 6 figures to work with, a guy based out in the States. It's a huge investment, and I do it because I absolutely believe in the power of the work that I do. And I bring all of myself into that.
And how do you choose that 6-figure coach? Because it is difficult to find people online that actually connect with you on a personal basis. You can go over to Facebook and everybody will show you the highlights. We talk about this a lot. How did you dig down and realise actually this guy is the real deal? Did you meet him personally, or was it all done?
Yeah, I met him over a number of years. We started to develop a relationship. I attended some of his events. And what I was really looking for is what value was he adding to me? You know, how was I benefiting by every time that I had a connection with him? How did my perspective change? How did I grow in some way? And then I was decided that it was time I worked with a new coach, and we had many connections, many conversations, and we got to the point where we'd agreed what it is we were going to create. We went into this wonderful fantasy world, and I do this with my own clients. It's, if anything was possible, what could we create? Let's not talk about you and I working together. Let's just talk about what would it be like to create in a world where anything was possible. And once we've started to kind of create that dream, then we can perhaps talk about what that would look like in terms of a contractual, if you like, relationship, a coaching relationship. But first of all, let's get to the point where we're both really inspired. We're really excited about the work that we're going to do together. And we've got to that place where we're choosing now to go on that journey and trusting that we can create the how. Because again, if we sit down and start from the how, it's not inspiring. It doesn't create stuff which doesn't already exist. So that's how I create my partnerships with the people that I work with, and that's how I found my coach.
And would you have just plumped for somebody? Because I get a lot of these questions, you know, should I use this guy in Vegas? Should I use the guy 2 minutes down the road from me? What would your advice be? Somebody's starting and they're in that scary zone of knowing that they need a coach, they know they need a help, but not knowing which way to turn. Is it always better to sit down with somebody over a pint and really talk to them?
I don't know if over a pint. I mean, I get the metaphor. It's about sort of sitting down and having an open and honest conversation. I'd absolutely recommend that. So, with most of my clients, what I'm doing is I'm filtering for commitment. So what I mean by that is I'm looking for somebody who is ready to go on this journey. So people may contact me. I may have a conversation with them, depending on how we get introduced. Most of my clients now come from refer or invitation. I'm really lucky in that way. But it's then about going, starting that process, having a conversation, exploring, seeing if it's a fit, seeing if you feel challenged by the person, seeing if you feel that your perspective changes each time, and then start to design what the program would look like, thinking about what the outcomes would be, what would be the vision, what would be the impossible dream that you would create through this work together. And if all that feels exciting, then you just say yes, you just jump in. That's the moment of choice. But to me, it's about spending time getting to know the person that you're going to commit to working with for a year or more often.
So for the people out there listening to this show, and we obviously started off talking about Liberia and the sort of the mission that you're on, what fascinated me was the Chicken Shit Foundation was about raising that kind of awareness in individuals by getting them to give and giving time. And I saw a guy on your website actually called Dan Martell, I think was Dan Martell. Was he on your gift?
I haven't met Dan Martell. So I'm not sure what you're referring to.
No problem. I must be thinking of something else. I do a lot of online stalking. But there was a guy who was on our show called Dan Martell, and he was very much about building his own business. And I've seen him recently, and he's like lit up inside. You can just see he's lit up inside after he's come back from a venture like you're doing to help underprivileged people, or he just wants to give back, and you can see it's like life affirming. Now with the Chicken Shits, which is a fantastic name as well, do they come back with more? Because I think they must do. They must go there after the first couple of days, think, oh my god, where's the deodorant, and then actually get into it and then think, actually I can't wait to get back.
Totally. I mean, a really good example is Haya, who was the architect that came out with me. I mean, on the first day, she said to me, Simon, I don't even know why I'm here. I don't really even see why I've said yes to this. I don't know how you persuaded me to come. The wonderful thing is I didn't persuade her. I just invited her. By the end of the week, she was talking about her chest not being big enough for her heart. And those words for me describe the whole transformational process, going from the place of not knowing why you're there to feeling so much love and fulfillment and desire to serve that your chest is no longer big enough for your heart. Well, what a fantastic job to have. That's what I do. I help people. I help their hearts expand to the point where they no longer fit inside their chests. That in a very kind of beautiful sentence describes why I do what I do. It's absolutely life-changing. It has the potential to change the way that people see life and how they create their life. What I really want to do is I want to start taking leadership teams from large organizations with me to Liberia as part of my leadership development programs that I do there. What I'd love to do, for example, is go to a local orphanage and say to this team, right, you've got 7 days to turn this orphanage round. At the moment, they don't have food, they don't have drinking water, the place is dirty. What I want you to do is to change this place around both physically, so it starts to look really fantastic and the kids feel a real sense of pride in where they live. And what I want to do is also to make it sustainable. So when you've left after a week, how does your legacy continue to keep this orphanage thriving? That to me would just be a fantastic thing to do. Get in touch with someone like, I don't know, Facebook or Google and take their guys out there and say, right, you've got a week to change people's lives. How deeply do you think it would transform their own lives? And how then would they bring that into the businesses that they run and the people that they lead? That's the kind of work that really lights me up.
I can see that. I can see it. When you talk, you are somebody that says not just the right words, but every word has feeling behind it. And that's the powerful thing. I can see why people say to you, how did you get me out of here? It's just you, isn't it? You have tapped into something that you can do naturally well. You talk with passion, you talk with enthusiasm, but you have a kind of calmness with it as well. You're not all arms flailing around, sort of getting excitable. You're just like calmly persuasive.
Thank you. I feel like I'm just very connected to my mission. And what I mean by that is I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm creating. I know the impact that it has. And if you feel inspired by that and want to come along on that journey, then let's have that conversation. If you don't, no matter how many times I wave my arms around or how excited I get, isn't going to change that in you. You need to find that inner spark. You need to have the curiosity to want to have that conversation. So I just have real clarity that I'm serving something which is bigger than me, and this idea of having a purpose which is bigger than me. So I'm much more able to ask for things from people when I'm talking in terms of the school project I'm doing, the Chicken Ship Foundation, than I am about asking, can you give me money? I don't have that. I don't have that same kind of inner belief, I suppose. But when I'm talking about what I know is going to change both the lives of the people who come on these experiences with me, but also, and this is really important, they empower the people that we're serving. That's when I guess I speak with such clarity and confidence, is that it's just something which is really, it's like describing something I know. It's like talking about my best friend. You can really describe somebody you know really deeply, talk about their gifts and their talents and how wonderful they are as a person, because you're talking about somebody else who you know really well. When I talk about my mission, it feels exactly like that. It feels like it's real. So I'm really just describing something that already exists. We haven't created it yet, but we're on the path. And that gives me the clarity, the confidence to bring people into the vision that I'm creating.
Did you go into schools? Because I think schools, and I'm saying this, I went to my daughter who's 12 years old. She won a High Achievers Award on drama. She's like the best drama student in her year. And so we had to go up yesterday afternoon. And fortunately, I've got freedom in my time, so I could just sort of rock up there. And we had this presentation, and she got a trophy and a certificate. It's really lovely stuff. And as I was sitting there listening to the head of year give this amazing kind of motivational speech about Andrew Carnegie being a small Scottish child, but creating amazing wealth and visions and just always knowing he could do it. I thought to myself, when I was going through school, if I could dodge a blackboard rubber, then that was a good day. It was just basically rooms of lunatics and just sort of unpleasant people. And then every now and again, one amazing teacher that's stuck with you for the rest of your life. Do you think that life is becoming more motivational? Do you think that what people are seeing is possible because we're not subjected to just what the teachers are telling us or what the local community is telling us? We can see it across the world now. Do you think that is a good thing for the children, or has that given restraints because they see it and it's almost like, oh, it's too big for me to deal with?
I don't know. I mean, this is really interesting because for me, the education system that we have in this country, and I have a 14-year-old daughter who's just done her GCSE selection. What I see is that what we're trying to do is prepare children to become cogs in the wheel. So it's about how we're training them to take their place in society. And what I'd love schools to do is actually forget all of the content that we're trying to cram into children's heads, because with nowadays information is something which is so available. What we really want to do is to help people and develop their discernment in how they use that information. Want to develop people and develop the way that people think, the way that they understand the natural laws of the universe, the way that they understand how energy is created and how we use the creative energy to create more of what it is that we want. It feels to me that schools are often, and not all of them, but schools are often just trying to keep people to be cogs in the wheel, cogs in the machine. And what I want to do, and I'd love to do, is to see people being trained differently, being taught about, now we know what we know about quantum physics, we know what we know about the law of attraction, we know what we know about the laws of the universe. Let's start teaching people and giving them an exposure to what the real magic of creation is. I'd love children to have that included in their curriculum.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think kids should just have fun and enjoy themselves. Be kids while you're kids, because it becomes so serious afterwards. But the real people that are rocking and rolling, like yourself, Simon, and in a small way of me, we are playing again. We've gone back to that school days when we just want to play and enjoy ourselves. But we probably lost it on that journey, but we've reclawed it back. Playing and being inventive and creative is such a big part of human life. We can never allow our kids to lose that, can we?
Well, no, I mean, children, that's what they're fantastic at doing, is that they know no limits. They just want things. They just talk about what it is that they want. I want this, I want that. They don't think about how they're going to get it. Whereas when we grow into adults, our first thought is not so much about what we want. It's all about the how. How am I going to earn more money? How am I going to create this? How am I going to find a way of making ends meet? And to me, it's that just by shrinking your thinking, and seeing the world in that way, it's just I'm just wanting to just give people the opportunity to lift their heads. You said, look over the garden fence and just see the world as a place for exploration, fun, invention, risk, fail, fall over, stand up again. If we'd all given up at the first time we fell over as kids when we were learning to walk, we'd all still be crawling around. I think as young people, we have the capacity to fail, to get up again, because we're just programmed in that way. And I think that what happens with society and school, sometimes it just beats people down to the point where they forget that they already have that within them.
Well, let's play the words now from a man whose whole dream when he started was to create a podcast called Join Up Dots. Maybe not, but his words have certainly been a big part of what we've got now. Here's Steve Jobs.
Of course, it was impossible to connect the dots looking forward when I was in college, but it was very, very clear looking backwards 10 years later. Again, you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. So you have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in your future. You have to trust in something, your gut, destiny, life, karma, whatever. Because believing that the dots will connect down the road will give you the confidence to follow your heart, even when it leads you off the well-worn path. And that will make all the difference.
I'm sure those words, you buy into those fully, Simon.
And I love that. I've heard that many, many times. I hadn't realized that's where the name of your show had come from.
Yeah, right in the early days, I got given a speech before Join Up Dots was even put up, Join Up Dots, and I just read the 3 stories that Steve Jobs spoke about, and it touched me. There was something in me. And so when the show was created, it kind of almost grew around these words. And wow, aren't I glad that I sort of stuck to those, because I think literally every person at their core knows it's to be true. You've got to move forward with faith. It's just clinging to that one thing that helps you move forward through the dark times. Well, when you look back over your life, we called it the dark dot or the big dot. But do you remember the moment when you thought to yourself, no, hang on, this is really, I can now see it. The bathroom moment when you realise that this is what I should be doing with my life?
I have many of those, and I guess what I mean by that is that every time I see what my next big adventure is going to be, what my next big idea is, I think, oh, that's it, and I step forward into that. And of course, you find that there's just another ring to the onion. It's, oh wow, what's possible now from this place? Take that step forward. Wow, the world's just got bigger and bigger, and that to me is those dots, those moments. It's really only by going on that path can you possibly explore. There are things beyond the horizon that we can't see, but that doesn't stop us going to the horizon. And once you get to the horizon, you can see there's yet another horizon. And that to me is the beauty of this journey, is that it's infinite. You know, infinity is not about, to me, infinity is like an infinite number of choices, an infinite number of opportunities to make creative choices. It's not just infinity just being a kind of nebulous nothingness. It's made up of lots and lots of opportunities to choose, an infinite number of opportunities to choose. But only by going on that journey can we ever come into contact with more and more and more of those.
And I think as you create the impossible and you look for those, I think people can start doing the impossible in such small ways, can't they? They can think, right, I'm going to get out of the office by 4:00 tonight, where the last 6 days they've been there till 7:00. There's very small impossibles that you can start building up that belief on.
I think it's a really great point, because what feels impossible to one person, it's completely subjective. And for some people, it may feel absolutely impossible to leave the office at 4 because they've always got so much to do. It must feel absolutely impossible to be at their child's prize giving at school because of the constraints of the work that they have. So if you can work with someone and help them to actually create them, and they create that and they do it for themselves, and you think, ooh, that wasn't as difficult as I thought. Their world has now just got a bit bigger. They've just stretched that comfort zone. They've just realized that the walls that constrain them, the box that they've created, which is their life, they realize that those walls are not as solid as they might at first appear. And it's what's beyond the solid walls which feels impossible. But if you can actually step through them, then you start to realize there's so much creativity outside of the constraints that we create for ourselves, and that we buy into, the constraints that society, as we said before, like to peddle as reality. What we're talking about here is, how do you create a new reality, even if that reality is just finishing at 4:00 and maybe on a Friday getting home and having tea with the kids. How would that change people's lives just if they could create that impossible for themselves?
I love this conversation. I don't want it to end, but of course we've got to make it end, because otherwise it's going to be the longest podcast on record. But this is the part that we've been building up to, and this is the bit that we call the sermon on the mic, when we're going to send you back in time to have a one-on-one with your younger self. And if you could go back in time and speak to the young Simon, what age would you choose and what advice would you give? Well, we're going to find out, because I'm going to play the theme, and when it fades, you're up. This is the sermon on the mic.
With the best bit of the show, the sermon on the mic, the sermon on the mic.
So the younger me that I would talk to would be the 16-year-old Simon. So I left school at 16 with 3 O-levels. Which was considered to be a complete failure. It wasn't enough even to get into college. And everybody had told me throughout my school career that I could do better, that I'd never amount to very much. I was told by my headmaster at my last school that I'd have to work very hard at my GCSEs if I was to achieve anything. And to have left with 3 O-levels, I've left labelled as a failure. And what I'd really like to say to that 16-year-old Simon is that was the moment in which you freed yourself from the path that people had prescribed. And if I could have just realized in that moment that I just created for myself an infinite number of possibilities, because I couldn't go on to college, I couldn't go on to university, I couldn't follow the path that I guess people were expecting. But I didn't realize that, so I just stayed in that path feeling like a failure. What I would say to the 16-year-old Simon is that was the point in which you needed to follow your heart. That was the point that you needed to go traveling. That was the point that you needed to start experiencing life from the perspective of what I wanted to have and experience in my life. The people I wanted to meet, the places I wanted to go. I had nothing to hold me back apart from how I'd been, I guess, trained to think and how my brain had been constrained. And what I'd love to have said to that Simon is, go out and have an adventure. Go out and be curious. Go out and create a life, which is something which you are doing now as an adult, but just go and do it now. That's what I'd say to the 16-year-old Simon.
Brilliant stuff. And for all the people out there listening, what's the number one best way that our audience can connect with you, Simon?
Go to my website, which is simoncrowe with an E at the end.com. There's a contact form on there. You can contact me, just share your big ideas. That's what I really love to do. That's where I love to start conversations. So if you want to go on my site, find the contact link and share with me what your biggest idea is. Let's start to have a conversation about how we can make that a reality.
Wonderful stuff. Simon, thank you so much for spending time with us today, joining up those dots. And please come back again when you've got more dots to join up, because I do believe that by joining up the dots and connecting our pasts is the best way to build our futures. Simon Crowe, thank you so much.
Thank you, David. It's been a real pleasure.
Simon Crowe, doing the impossible, thinking big, going for it. I love that. I love that. And I love the fact that you can start doing the impossible now. You can just look at something that hasn't been what you would perceive is possible. And it might be getting a night out without the kids. Oh, we can't get babysitters. It's too hard. You can do it. Yeah, whatever you want in your life, you can do it. That show literally lit me up inside. As he was talking, I could feel myself growing, thinking, I've got to do bigger. I've got to do bolder. I've got to really get out there. Loads of ideas come into my head through that. So if you've got that same kind of passion for life, I really recommend talking to Simon. He's somebody who is at the top of his game and can deliver big time. Thank you so much for being here, listening to this episode of Join Up Dots. And until the next time, we'll see you again.
David doesn't want you to become a faded version of the brilliant self you were once to become. So he's put together an amazing guide for you called the 8 Pieces of Advice that every successful entrepreneur practices, including the 2 that changed his life. Head over to joinupdots.com to download this amazing guide for free, and we'll see you tomorrow on Join Up Dots.